Hi, this is Carol from SkilCheck. Today we're going to be talking about human trafficking in self-storage. And I know this isn't the most uplifting topic. I think this is something that we all can be watching for at our storage properties, so let's talk about it. Human trafficking is force, fraud, and coercion. And it's really for people that get into this or are put into this are used for labor, services, and commercial sex acts. So it's again something that we need to watch for, and this is what's happening to these people. It's also important to know, there is and has been human trafficking in self-storage. So really, I'm thinking if we can get together and watch for it, we can do something about it. And who it affects? Well, it's men, women, and children. So if you think, oh, it couldn't possibly be any men or any kids, well, certainly it can be. But when you think about this, then the National Human Trafficking Hotline reports 5,147 cases reported. California and Texas were the states with the most trafficking cases. New York, Ohio, Michigan also saw hundreds of human trafficking cases. So it's really more prevalent than we may think. And we want to stop it. I found something interesting on an Easy Storage website, and it was interesting because one of the things they talk about on there is, are you abiding by the public storage restrictions? And it says humans. It's basically, here's their advice. It's unfortunate that we have to list this, but you are not allowed to store humans in a storage unit. Not to get too dark, but with the influx of human trafficking cases, it's not unheard of for people to hide and store humans in self-storage units. In the same vein, you can't live in the storage unit. Boy, is that the truth. We have that all the time, don't we? But there's no plumbing, cooking in, or potential, there are fire hazards, right? You can't take up residence inside a storage place. So they are pre-warning you, here's something that obviously they've had problems with in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Detroit, or St. Louis, and they're even putting it on their website to be aware that they're not going to have any of that happening at their stores. But human trafficking, we can help. I think one of the things when you think about is human traffickers, they use various forms of force, fraud, and coercion, and even working out of especially during the daytime, out of hotels and that sort of thing. But, they can be for a lot of different reasons, for imposing of debts, fraudulent employment opportunities, false promises of like love or a better life, and just that psychological coercion they have for younger people, and violence and threats of violence. But it is happening everywhere, even on tribal lands, which I thought that was just crazy. I thought, wow, that it seems like such a small community that it wouldn't happen there. So be on the lookout. Human traffickers, they operate in full view. We may not even notice it in self-storage unless we're aware of it. And when I looked on some of the trafficking websites, they said tourist destinations, large public events, seasonal work farms or places where they work. And also they see online advertising opportunities for their services, interstate highways, truck stops. So if you're near, your storage property is somewhere near any of these military bases, rest stops, factories, you could very easily be a place in a set international borders, colleges and universities. These local features allow traffickers to transport, market, and recruit their victims, and which is just so sad. And I think, it is fraud. What they're doing is they're causing, a fraud to happen, or that's the legal term of what's happening. But it's those false promises regarding either employment or wages or working conditions or marriage or simply a better life, or maybe even just stealing a child. That happens too. So when you think about coercion, that's threats of harm, abuse against the victim and their loved ones, psychological manipulation or shame, and threats of putting and showing pictures. They may fear our law enforcement or may even see themselves as a victim yet. So be careful and watch for them. Human trafficking versus human smuggling. It's kind of a little bit of different thing. The human trafficking is illegal exploitation of a person. The human smuggling is illegal movement of that person across the border. So human trafficking happens with any race, age, and gender identity. Trafficking victims can be from even within the United States. So don't think it's only, people that are from outside the US. One of the things that I learned when researching this was the branding and tattooing of victims. And the two people that you see here, it looks like a barcode on the girl on the left, and the second one on the right is Daddy's Girl. That's what he brands all of his girls with. And it's really hard when once someone's been branded. And what I did find interesting when I was learning about all of this is that there are tattoo artists out there that help women that have been in this situation, and they turn those tattoos into other beautiful things that they don't have to be reminded. But remember that 30% of the human trafficking victims are children, and we want to be careful about that and look out for it. Learning indicators of the human trafficking, relationship doesn't appear to always be genuine, particularly between a child and the, who you think is the parent and guardian. And someone exhibiting signs of being harmed or deprived of food, water, medical care, other life necessities, or personal possessions, a person that's not in control of their own money, their personal schedule, the ID, or even their travel documents, a person who appears like fearful, compliant, or under the control of another person, a person with a boyfriend or girlfriend that's noticeably older or in, sort of over controlling. Also, watch for those tattoos and branding displays of the name of the trafficker, such as the one I just showed you as Daddy. I don't think we would know all of those, so I don't know, that would be a little bit hard. But I did find this interesting when this one was in Auburn, California, which is in Northern California. And it was a sex trafficking victim that kind of was speaking out and said, no matter how much I forget, I will always remember that this is the one feeling, lying on the floor of the storage unit, shaking because I was cold, drugged out of my mind, and puking up blood, and these men would just continue to do whatever they wanted to me. And these men didn't care what I was puking up blood. It was like having your innocence taken over and over again. And I know this is in 2011, so this has been going on a long time, but if we're in self-storage and we can see this and find it and report it, this is going to be amazing for the people who are trapped in this lifestyle. So at age 15, Jane ended up in California along with several other girls that this guy had handpicked. They had traveled all around California, Nevada, and she never walked a street corner, even though she was in the sex trade, if you will. And people wanted to pay for sex, or Johns would call her on an untraceable cell phone. And she often was held in these storage units. And the manager and employees of the storage companies would often be paid off to keep quiet. That made me so mad when I saw that. And the pimps would, use the girls as drug mules. It was just horrible. I also looked up some data for Arizona because that's where I live. So, and I venues for sex trafficking, the pornography, the illicit spas and spa businesses, hotels. So during the day, they may be at a massage place, but they may be bringing them back to the storage place to spend the night there. So there are a lot of different, street-based escort services. And you can see there were some adults, some minors, female, most of them, but not all. So keep in mind, it's not just females. It can be males also, foreign nationals and citizens, US citizens. So it's a variety, and you can't just assume that it's just one or the other. But if you need to find more information, the National Trafficking Hotline statistics, it gives you a lot of information there. You can look at the 50,123 signals were received by the hotline. If you have someone that you need to report, you can I would go first, to your local, but if you're worried about it, human trafficking hotline.org or dhs.gov Blue campaign is all about turning this kind of information in. And recognize the indicators. You know, it may not be a real case, but it would be better to turn it in. You can always call these numbers that are here. And again, 911 if you're not really sure and you want to just turn something in and not, you know, say that it's actually trafficking when you're not sure. So, and what do you need to report? Remember, you've got to, you know, get the unit number, the time of the day that you see them going in and out, the physical appearance or the name of the person on the unit number, the possible trafficker, you know, that is your person who owns or has the name of on their unit, and the gender, the clothing, everything that you can think of there. Their behavior, the interaction. I would do gate tapes. You know, I would look up that particular unit and I would pull the tapes of every time they're coming in and out of the storage property and the location. And also call your owner, let them know, let the home office know. Certainly, I would probably do that before I would even call the authorities. So be careful about that. Psychological look at the trafficking. Sex trafficking happens to minors and very young children. They may have cell phones because you may think, oh, well, if they have a cell phone, they could call home. But psychologically, that fear causes compliance, and the traffickers know that, and that's why they don't call 911 because they feel like they have something over them. They often are also clean and their clothes look normal and typical, kind of a little baggy generally. They often wear little to no jewelry, and they typically are hungry, and they rely on that trafficker for permission to eat. Non-customers entering the property, watch with that. If they have a code and they're a non-customer coming in, because sometimes you guys know, but these could be buyers of those sex workers. They might be older people, young and old. Don't just think it's, you know, older, younger, or, you know, should be middle age. It's not necessarily true. Even the victim may be fearful of being seen or, you know, speaking to the manager. The tenant may ask for 24-hour access to the property. They may choose those stores that have 24-hour access, and watch for those customers coming in and out of that gate because it is at odd hours. I think managers that are really all over this are amazing. You know, I don't know. I don't know what we think of as the people who are being trafficked, but these kids to me all look pretty good. They look in good shape. And it's not just girls, it's boys too. So be careful not to just assume. I feel like some of these customers could easily be our storage customers. Yes, because some of them have scared me over the years. So, and if you find them, there's some more numbers here that you can call directly for federal law enforcement, and the trafficking hotline is another good number. And remember, don't confront the suspected traffickers. That's not your job. Try to stay cool and calm. Don't draw attention to yourself by speaking out to the traffickers. Avoid walking or driving by them over and over. You know, look at them on the camera. That's probably the easiest way to do it if you've got cameras, or get more if you need them. Avoid taking pictures. Oh, I'm pretty bad about that. When I see something weird and my kids are like, oh, Mom, that's so obvious. But anyway, act. Call the police. Call, you know, check your DVR for activity. You know, keep it for the police. And let's see if we can do something about this and watch for it, at least at a minimum. Again, thank you for listening. This is Carol again from SkilCheck. We would love to have you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and it means a lot to us. If you have any topics that you would like us to undertake, thank you so much for listening. And if you need us, you can see how to get to us. Thanks a lot, and happy renting.